This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right, let's talk about True Gold, which is, of course, the Bitcoin of the NHL, the Florida Panthers, with the one and only David Dwork. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, it's good to see you, man. Good to be on.
It's good to have you on, my friend. And it's good to have a real team in town right now, because outside of the team you cover for the Hockey News, there's nobody else in town right now doing it this way, dude. It is, like yesterday, I'm looking at it, I'm going, okay, this is the third time they're in the finals. They've done this all on the road this year, completely. They're on the road now for game one against the same team they beat last year. That team is great. They're super motivated to beat them. Okay. Everything has gone, that could possibly go against them, because now where they're at, every night, every period, they're getting everybody's best. And that's what they've gone through now for the last few years. And last night they even led, and they didn't play well, and they ended up losing by 1 goal late in overtime. To me, I don't know how much, to use a Bitcoin term, I don't know how much bullish I can be about the Panthers when I put all of that into the equation. I mean, last night, 2 dudes blocked Bobby from one of the goals. And the other goal, the dude had 2 saves, and then the damn fortunate third bounce to, not only did they play a great team, they were motivated, they had every break also go their way. So to me, I don't know how much more positive I could have been about that situation last night, and Bob was fantastic.
Yeah, no, it was a great game one. Super exciting. I mean, everything that we kind of figured it was going to be. Would have been nicer to see Florida come out on top at the end.
Yeah.
Both teams had their chances in overtime. And look, the Panthers are a team that they're quick to bounce back, as we've seen over the last several years. So I imagine that they're going to take what they like from this game and try to expand on it. And there's a lot that they're going to want to improve on. I mean, what do they have? Like 8 shots on goal between the third period and overtime. That's very un-Panthers like. So, I would expect to see them come back with a couple of different things after game one, seeing what Edmonton threw with them. But overall, I mean, we'll be treated to another long series if we're lucky, because that game one was great.
Yeah, that game one was phenomenal. And David, there is one kryptonite for them. Time. They hate time off. There's something about that when they get several days off, that first game, they're just not as sharp. You know what I mean? And yesterday they had several days off, and it somehow or another, they're not they did that a couple of series back too, when they had a couple of days off. They didn't, the Toronto series, I think it was, and they started in a hole because they had, I think, several days off too. They don't do well with rest. How about that? Is that crazy?
I think at this point of the season, if you're not just amped up and want to play a game every other day or even every day, then there's something a little wrong with you, just because this is what we all dream about, right? It's the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's the Stanley Cup final. So having that big gap between games, I'm sure nobody was too happy about it, because, I mean, practice is nice and it's fun. You're hanging out with your buddies. You're going over things that you've been going over for, months and months now. But the game's what we really want to get to. So it wouldn't be surprising for either
practice
team.
is the worst thing to cover. And from what I remember, it's the most boring shit there is in the world. Football practice is way better. When you walk in, at least, and you watch a little bit of basketball practice, is way better. Hockey, because the games are so brutal, you don't really get it's not like they're scrimmaging or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's really boring shit sometimes, man. So yeah, I get it. The practice is not you do that every day, it's not the same as a game. It just doesn't even come close, dude. God.
No. I mean, you might be barking up the wrong tree just because I'm a little bit of a hockey nerd and I get off on seeing certain things happen. But I mean, I see where you're coming from, and that hockey practice they are very, very rare that you see anything that resembles a game at a hockey practice. And as you said, even in football, as brutal and as physical as that sport can be, you can still see football at a football practice. You still get excited when Tua hits Waddle or Tyreek deep down the sideline, or somebody breaks through a big run. And in hockey, it's like, oh, they're practicing a shootout. That should be much more exciting than it is, but it's not.
Yeah, but
So
hockey practice is more mental, psychological. It's not a physical thing because the game and the season crushes you and and especially if you're a team like the Panthers that you had 3 months of playoffs on top of all of that. It just football doesn't even come close to hockey overall. And I hate if people don't understand that, but that is the truth. And so it's so draining that you can't there's no way you could ever have hockey practice to ever come even close to a game. It would be catastrophic for your team.
no, for sure. And it's more just like taking a video session and executing it in 3D on the ice. Just because, I mean, hockey, more than any other sport, you have to be going 100 miles per hour from the moment your skates hit the ice till you're back on the bench. And things happen so fast that all you can do is prepare yourself for muscle memory for any ridiculous situation that might happen to you while you're on the ice, because you don't know. So, hockey practice, it's hard to really equate that to a game. And just, it's learning things, trying to get those routes down. It's not that dissimilar from football practice in that they're trying to learn a lot of those kind of plays and routes and things of that nature, especially with the Panthers, because they play such a tight 5-man defensive unit. But yeah, I see where you're coming from with hockey practice. I'd rather be on the ice taking the shots than watching it from the stands.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I covered hockey practice and it wasn't anything. The funnest part for me of hockey practice was on the Pompano rink that was on US1. I forgot what the hell that one was called. Do you remember that one in the early days?
Gold Coast?
Yeah. I think it was called Gold Coast. Yeah, you were young as hell because this was in the 90s.
For sure.
What year were you born?
83.
Yeah, so you were like freaking 13, 14 years old and when I was covering the team in the mid-90s. So the fun part was actually after practice, because the rink was right literally you had no privacy. You had to walk right into the parking lot and it was right there with the public. Dude, it was like 200-300 people every day in the mid-90s because of the buzz and all that. That was the fun part. Actually, watching the guys come out and be so cool with the fans all the damn time, dude. Hockey players are the best. It's not even close.
No doubt.
It's not even close. Educate us on this, and you're also a goalie. Yesterday, when the two guys blindside Bob to the left side and leave to his right and leave the left open, and then obviously they score the goal. Did those two guys fundamentally do something wrong by not creating lanes and space for the goalie? So at least they could give him vision that where he has, more 90-degree vision, in other words, in front of him, where he didn't, where he could not see a certain section there. And then that was a real liability for Bob yesterday. So fundamentally, what was the breakdown there defensively? And then I know Barkov also was chasing somebody and he got out of the play too.
Yeah, those situations are tough. Like when you've got the puck, when it's in your defensive zone, if you have an opportunity to give your goalie a clear line of sight at a far off shot, always you want to do that. However, when the puck's moving around a lot and there's a lot of motion going on, guys are trying to cover things, guys are trying to block shots. It's a little bit more difficult. And there's no like black and white rule for that one. It's very situational. So in that situation, like I can understand why the defensemen were trying to do what they were doing.
Right.
And, playing.
They thought they were cutting off an angle, right?
Yeah, of course. You think you're doing the right thing in the moment. And also you don't know that the shot's necessarily coming in that moment either, because it's not like they're setting up for a one time. So it's really kind of tough to pick apart those kind of defensive plays after the fact. Like obviously Bob would be the first one to tell you that his guys are doing exactly what he would want them to do and trying to clean up around the net, to keep the house clear and to take away all those second opportunities. But yeah, it was just tough on Bob. And for a game where he gave up 4 last night, it's hard to really fault him on any of them, because if it wasn't a screen, it was a funky play in front of the net. And for all the pucks that he saw last night, I thought Sergei Bobrovsky was pretty good in game 1.
I thought he was fantastic, dude, yesterday.
Yeah.
In fact, they should have lost by a lot more. How about that? I could argue they might have had maybe another goalie. You never get to overtime. How about that?
No, Edmonton swarmed the Panthers for a lot of parts of that second and third period, or that first period particularly, and the third period. Obviously, they outshot Florida. I think it was like 16 or 17-2 or whatever, some ridiculous number. But no, Bob was huge for the Panthers last night. If they get that kind of goaltending from Bob for the rest of this series, it'll go a long way for Florida to come back on Edmonton, which we all know that they're perfectly capable of. But particularly if Bob is as good as he was in game one, the result will probably go Florida's way.
It's pretty amazing what this team is doing, man. I mean, and then in a way, I wanted Dallas, but this actually, if you accomplish this, this makes it even more special because you're actually beating another great team to win the cup. You're not beating, some upstart. You're not beating some team that just got hot all of a sudden and things went their way and they're the Miami Heat and Embiid was injured and Giannis was injured and here you are, you got through Boston and oh wow, you're in the finals, and you belong nowhere next to Denver. You know what I mean? That's not the case here. You're beating a team that could easily be holding the cup just like you, which is pretty freaking special, bro.
It's cool that like we get this rare final rematch, which already there's only been like 2 in 40 years or whatever it's been. But both teams are so hungry after just being there last year. They both are improved over the teams from last season. They know each other so well. Like it's you could already tell from game one, it was just a completely different feel from so much of the final from last year, just because both teams are that much more mature, that much tougher, that much deeper. So as you said, we're treated with this. And hopefully, as much as I don't want to travel back to Edmonton as much as we did last season, a 7-game series is, I feel like, what hockey fans deserve with two teams this good playing this well right now.
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do, my brother? I know. I wish, actually, for your purposes, I wish it was Dallas because traveling would be so much easier for you guys to go from Dallas to Miami and
Oh,
back.
yeah.
That would
We
be
kept
fantastic.
that was at the front of our minds during the Western Conference final for sure.
Yeah.
But
Edmonton is all connections, right? You have
oh,
to.
yeah.
Yeah, it sucks. I know. I get that. All right. So you're a goalie. You know the game well. You've been covering it for years. And now that you're covering it also, you get to cover it during the good times and you got to cover it during the tough times. You're Paul Maurice, you're the players. What are they discussing right now that they were unhappy with in game one?
I think letting Edmonton dictate their style of play a little bit more than Florida was dictating their own. I think Florida found themselves a little bit bogged down, stretching the puck a little bit more. Like instead of getting it deep, we saw a lot of icing plays last night at certain segments of the game that was pretty uncharacteristic of, I mean, both teams really, but for what Edmonton was trying to do to Florida, stretching out their play. I mean, you saw what Edmonton was doing on their power play. Florida is known for having such an aggressive penalty kill, and Edmonton kept all their guys so spread apart right up until the point of attack. It was pretty impressive to see how they were kind of learning off of one each other as the game progressed. But to see the adjustments from game one to game two, as to answer your question, I mean, this is a team that's bounced back so well so many times that I wouldn't imagine anybody is feeling anything but anxiousness to get back on the ice and make up for, I guess you would say, a rough segment there. Particularly, I just keep going back to the third period where they really struggled to maintain puck possession, which is an area that they're so good at in so much of the season. So just from game one to game two, I'll just be looking for them to kind of hang on to the puck a little bit more, see a few bit more shots on goal, and maybe try to get into a few more passing lanes. I mean, they did give up what it was like 33, 34 shots or whatever it was, a fairly high amount for Florida. Granted, it is Edmonton and they were at home, but when the Panthers are doing what they do defensively, we know that they're on their game. So we'll see how they adjust from game one to game two. But overall, they've been so good at making adjustments and keeping their cool and the experience and everything that I would, not be too worried about things if I'm a Panthers fan.
All right. Before the series started, one of the things that, there are a couple of things. This team is awesome, but they do have a couple of bugaboos that show up every once in a while. It's not habitual, but it becomes a little bit of an issue. They gave up a few shorties this year on power plays. Two, they've given some odd men rushes, and those are things you don't want to do. And in the last series, Bob was fantastic the times it happened. And that's where you hope that when you have a great goalie, you don't want that to happen much. But when it does happen, you want him to win those challenges more often than not. So you don't want those kind of things to happen, especially against a team like this with that kind of special speed that Connor has. The other one, stupid penalties. And the game ended on a stupid penalty. And that's one thing that I got to imagine they're talking about today. Fellas, we're playing a team that we cannot give them freebies. And so that's something that they've got to watch out because, that last penalty, come on, dude. That was just ridiculous.
Yeah, you don't want to be giving a team like Edmonton 5 power plays in a game. Credit they had killed off everything until the overtime, but a team that's as skilled as Edmonton, and you could argue that they're very similarly in terms of at least the top half of their roster. I mean, they've got 2 of the best players in the world off the top. So even without Zach Hyman, Edmonton's got a lot of firepower. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see if and how Florida tries to control that, because I know they were trying to keep at least their top D pairing, Forsling and Ekblad last night, and that didn't really end up too well. Just looking at the numbers after the fact, it's tough. But that's at this point of the season, that's what you're going to get, right?
Yeah, I get, but you have to kind of limit those things are going to happen. The way the Panthers play defense, there a couple of odd men rushes. It's going to happen, dude. You know what I mean? You don't want a lot of that to happen, obviously. But the one thing you also don't want against this team, dude, please do not give away stupid penalties. And
no, you got to stay out of the box for sure. Yeah. I mean, remember last year during the final,
last one was unacceptable. That last one was that one is unforgivable. I almost understand one where a guy turns a corner on you and he's about to maybe get a breakaway, get an edge on you. You kind of hook him, you reach him. Dude, I get that. I understand. But that one last night, that's a sour way to kind of end. And that's against that team. You can't do shit like that. You just can't.
No, it's a rough call. It's a rough play for Nosek to make. And look, I know that Podkolzin was right there. It sounded like there was some stick contact with the puck, like watching it back, but whatever the play was, the penalty was called. I just don't want to go get too. It's not like he was standing there by himself and he just shot it up out of the ice.
I get it.
I get too much on Thomas Nosek. Just nobody's going to feel worse than him. And I think at the end of the day, whether it's a delay of game, whether it's a hook, whether it's there was some errant high sticks that happened last night that you wonder, like, how is that happening? No matter what the call is, you got to stay out of the box against a team like Edmonton, because as good as Florida's penalty kill has been and as great as they've been on the road, you can't hang your hat on that. Like, okay, we're going to lean on this. Like, we're going to be fine. No, this Edmonton team is too good and they're going to pick you apart. So Florida, they've got to be sharper. Totally agree.
Yeah. I'm with you. It's a nice lesson learned. Like, we got to be really sharp, and these kind of little mistakes can be catastrophic for for them, for us. We got to stay away from this. And then one more thing, and obviously a hell of a lot more than I ever will about this. On the power play, one of the things that's good for Florida, if Connor McDavid's out there against you, he loses a superpower, the open ice and speed. So on that 4-on-3, he, since he wasn't starting from the other side, which nobody's going to stay with the dude, I noticed that if you keep him in space, at least, he's dangerous. But if he doesn't have that open ice, that's when he becomes unstoppable. You know what I'm saying? So I noticed that in that especially that 4-on-3, that was so awesome by the Panthers to survive that. But again, that speed factor was a little bit out of McDavid's toolbox at that moment.
I think that's the scariest part of his game, is when he gets his wheels going and moves up and down the ice. Like, it's a blur. And when you combine that with the hands that he has and the stick handling the ability that he has, he's just unstoppable. So it's scary to think about just some of the plays that he's made, and even just watching him skate up and down the ice last night. So, like, I get it. It's definitely, if you're going to say the lesser of two evils, having him, working the puck in the offensive zone as opposed to like flying with speed into it. 100%. No. What really impressed me with his speed last night was when he was killing penalties, though. Like, the way he was able to keep up, go from zone to zone, and shut down a few different plays on the same couple of rushes. That could be another X factor that Florida's going to have to figure out a way to deal with, because he was very dynamic and effective on the PK.
sometimes there are great players that are great offensive players, and then there are those great offensive players that also have the great vision. And that's what made Gretzky what he was. Not only could he score, his vision to make passes that nobody could see, and then how did the game end? Connor McDavid making the
A
pass,
gorgeous pass.
a
Yeah, for
gorgeous
sure.
pass. And so those special dudes that just like a Barkov that he'll kill you every one way or the other. He killed you with a defensive play, he'll kill you with an assist, he'll kill you with a goal. It doesn't matter. He's going to find a way to kill you because he's super special, and it's just one of those kind of guys, man. They're just other level, You'll see those guys that are snipers, but they're not great passers. They're not the same. And it's a whole different when you're dealing with those kind of monsters, brother, the game's it's that much harder, bro. And then you bring on Connor McDavid's speed. I was like, wow, dude. And I was, hey, man, at least in the power play, even on 4-on-3, I was going, shit, at least he can't use his speed. And I was like, yeah, yeah. It was great. It was great.
No,
All right.
the
So
hockey IQ is off the charts, man.
who? Who?
So all those, I mean, McDavid, Barkov, Gretzky, all the guys you mentioned, but like
Yes.
McDavid, it's crazy because he's moving so fast, and the way that he can still see things develop despite moving faster than anybody else on the ice, it's
Awesome.
otherworldly. It's really cool to be able to see it.
It's super awesome to watch, man. So give me a prediction. What do you think happens game 2?
I would think the Panthers are going to bounce back. They've been pretty good about it. They're not going to want to go home down 2-0 as they did against Toronto. Like that was a tough hole to climb out of, even though they were able to. I think, obviously you don't want to do that against this Oilers team. So I would think that Florida's going to come out and do their best to stay out of the box, as we talked about, maintain a bit more puck possession, and kind of tilt the scales a little bit more. Because, as much as you can poke holes in their game 1, they were right there. They were one shot away from winning that game. So, we'll see. This is a team. It's a very, what's that? I lost the word. They bounce back. They're
Resilience.
Thank you. There it is. Thank you, Orlando. They're a resilient bunch. So I would expect that to happen in game 2.
All right. Follow him on Twitter at David Dwork, the Hockey News. Tell him about the Hockey Show. The Show.
Yes. Every Friday, Roy Bellamy and I from the Levitard Show, we have the Hockey Show that goes on all the Levitard channels. This Friday for game 2, tomorrow night, we're going to be doing a watch party at the Dead Flamingo, formerly Casa Tiki, down in Little Havana. So if you want to stop by and watch the game there with us, that'd be cool. If you can't stop by, we're going to be streaming it on YouTube as well. So it's fun. Roy and I have some fun. We're just a couple of hockey nerds, and we've been blessed with this team doing so well.
Finally.
So,
damn, man.
Yeah,
have good ownership.
It's been pretty awesome.
Yeah, dude. It's great to have good ownership, and that's why this is happening. If it's not for Viola, this shit doesn't happen, bro.
No, it's got to start from the top.
And Zito is the magic man, bro. He is the magic man. All right, follow him on Twitter at David Dwork, and you're getting everything you deserve, bro. After all these years, you had the roughest beat, and second because the Marlins is the roughest. Man, now you got the best beat in town, baby. So enjoy, my friend. Appreciate you.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you as well.
You got it. There you go. David Dwork getting it done. The Hockey News, also the Hockey Show. You can check that out and support him and follow him because he's good people. Always has been, always will be.